How you doing, guys? Malik over at Modern Pawn. Today we're going to be talking about knots. I get a lot of questions from my fishing videos on what knots do I use and what knots do I use for certain things. What I'm going to cover today is just basically inshore fishing, light tackle, freshwater, light tackle knots needed. The absolute core set of knots. Now, the knots that I'm going to cover are going to cover 99.9% of all situations that I'm going to encounter when I'm fishing for redfish, trout, flounder, bass, crappie, catfish. This is really my core set of knots that I use for light tackle. Now, when I talk about light tackle, I'm talking about 40-pound test line and under. If you're going to be doing heavier tackle offshore style fishing or big game fishing, you might need a few other different tricks up your sleeve, as well as fly fishing. Fly fishing kind of has its own knots associated with the tackle. So what I'm going to be talking about is your basic light tackle, something like this right here, a little Stratic, some Power Pro, 10 to 20 pound test rod. First, the majority of what I fish, I almost exclusively fish a braided line. For the main line, I always throw a braided line if it's a bait caster or a spinning reel. The braided line is technologically much more advanced than your traditional monofilament. Now, with that being said, I almost always run a monofilament or fluorocarbon leader. So the first knot that I'm going to cover is the first knot you'll probably have to tie when you get your rig set up, which is going to be braided line to monofilament or fluorocarbon leader. This is probably one of the knots I've experimented the most with. I've tested these knots both on the water and in the garage with pull gauges and stuff like that, and I have found the knot that works best for line to line, and especially dissimilar lines, like a braided Spectra style line, so either fluorocarbon or monofilament, is the uni to uni knot. First thing you're going to want to do when you tie this knot is you're going to want to have about, I would say, 8 to 10 inches free that you can work with and cut off. So if you want a 2-foot leader, for example, you want to put maybe 3 foot, 3.5 foot of leader taken off the spool. So you're going to want a little bit on either side. And what you're going to do, basically, in the hand, is you're going to pull them equal lengths to each other, about like that. So you got your main line over here, this is your tag end, then you have the tag end of the main line and the main line of the leader. You're going to take the leader and make a loop like this. Now the loop has the line coming in, it loops around. You're going to fold the line in through the loop and around both the leader and the main line of the Spectra. And you're going to do this 6 or 7 times with the mono, okay? Once you've done that, you are going to then pull on the tag end of the monofilament and the main line of the monofilament. You're going to pull on both lines, and that line is going to cinch up. Now I'm going to pull a little bit on this Power Pro to keep it straight inside, okay? So basically what you're doing here is pulling on these two lines until that kind of rolls up into like a little barrel knot, okay? What you end up with is a barrel knot or a uni knot wrapped around the Spectra, the Power Pro, whatever you got on there. Then you're going to take the spectra and do the same thing to the main line. So I'm going to make a loop, and then I'm going to wrap this line around through the loop and around both these pieces of line several times. Now I do about 5 to 7-ish on the monofilament, but on the spectra you want to do a few more. I would say in the neighborhood of 9 to 10. You wrap that around there several times, and then you're going to pull that until it starts wanting to form that barrel knot. Okay, so you're going to want to, don't use your teeth normally on these, but I'm going to use my teeth. You're going to pull on this and see it's starting to form that barrel knot. Forms that barrel knot right there. So you have a barrel knot there, and you have a little barrel knot over here. Now you're going to take the two ends of the lines and you're going to pull them until they lock on each other. This knot right here will not slip. I'll tell you what, I have thrown this knot thousands and thousands of times, and it does not slip. Now, I used to run an Albright knot, and the Albright knot I would have slip every now and then, especially on the Power Pro side. I think it would slip through. You see that how that Power Pro went from kind of like a light pink, it like gets darker almost. I don't know what that what the material property that does that. When it gets that like saturated color, that's when you got a nice hard knot. This knot right here, it does not slip. It's very low profile. You can cut the tags real short. It is not in the way. I absolutely always run this knot when I'm running braided line to monofilament or fluorocarbon. It works phenomenal. I'm going to put a link down in the comment section that's going to give you some like some of those animated graphics of step-by-step on how to tie these knots. So if the detail isn't 100% crisp on these, you'll be able to see it a little clearer. So now that you have your line and your leader without any hardware in the middle, you have to attach terminal tackle. So the next knot I'm going to cover is the terminal tackle knot that I use. If I'm throwing something like a topwater lure, a jig head, a crankbait, a spoon, I generally don't like running an extra split ring. These little split rings right here. I don't like running the loop to the split ring and a knot to the split ring. What can happen with these split rings, and it's happened to me and I've seen it happen, the line will get caught inside the split ring, and then it'll want to start either working its way out or gouging the line. I don't really like running the split ring, tying the knot to it if I can avoid it. So what I normally do is, this will obviously have hooks on it, but I take the split ring off the front of these. What happens if you were to tie like a clinch knot or an improved clinch knot to this right here, when you lock this monofilament down on there, it kind of kills some of the action of the bait. So when the bait's swimming in the water, it doesn't have that mobility that you get when having a ring put on the end of this loop. So having a split ring and then tying the knot to the split ring. What I like to tie to my topwater, spoons, jig heads, all that stuff is what's called a loop knot. The loop knot that I use is called a tarpon loop. It's a very easy knot to tie, and basically what you're going to need is about 6 inches of extra line to do the knot. You come back about 6 inches and you tie a basic double overhand knot. So you make that's like a granny knot, and then you go through the granny knot one more time. So what you end up with is just a double overhand knot. 1, 2. Now the trick here, if Kyle can get nice and tight on this, is what you do right here. What you're going to want to do is gently pull on this knot until it folds over. Right there. What happens is if you pull it just enough, it makes like a little figure 8. Okay? That figure 8 right there is what you want. If you pull it too hard, that figure 8 will close up and you're not going to be able to complete the knot. So now that you have this little figure 8 in the end of the line, you take your lure and you loop, you just put one loop through it. Now, if you look at the knot, you can see there's like the line comes out of one loop and out of the other. So you're going to want to trace back through. So this is going to go back through this way. Okay? And then it's going to go how it's coming out the loop down right there. It's going to go back through this way. It seems complicated at first, but once you've done it a couple times, it's really easy. All you're going to do then is you're going to pull on the tag end. You're going to pull on the tag end until the knot folds over. So you basically have just like a little slip knot right there. That's all you have, and it's sucked up all the way to the ring. Fold it over, sucked up all the way to the ring. You don't need to lock it down real hard yet. Then what you're going to do, it's similar to the uni knot that we just tied. You're going to take the line and the tag, hold them together, and you're going to make another double hand knot right here. You're going to go once, you're going to go twice, and that's all you have is a double hand knot. Now, where you decide to lock this knot down is going to decide the size of your loop. So if I were to roll this knot over like this and cinch it up, I have a really big loop. I don't want a big loop. I want a smaller loop. So you just kind of work that little loop over towards closer to this side of the lure. And then you just start cinching it up by pulling on the tag once again. Pull on the tag a little bit, pull on the tag a little bit. That knot folded over. So you have a little knot here and a little knot here. When I pull on the main line, those two knots come together and they lock on each other. You form a nice, very clean, low profile, no weed snagging loop on the end of your lure. And what you have is this lure has the ability to be a little more free in action. And you don't have to worry about your split ring getting caught on that loop or caught on the line and wanting to work its way out. And this knot is very strong. I mean, I can probably cut my hand with that knot right now. That knot's not going anywhere. And again, I have tested this knot over and over again, and I can trim that tag pretty much as close as I want to trim that tag, and it's not going to slip. It is a very, very strong knot. When you do this type of setup, when you have your monofilament or fluorocarbon to your lure, and then your Power Pro to your leader, this, in my opinion, imparts the best action. It gives the best presentation. It's the least amount of hardware and junk floating around in the water for you to get snagged on, tangled on, caught up on the grass. It's going to keep you fishing longer, and these knots, once you get used to them, are lightning fast to tie. They are really, really quick to tie. I'm never having any trouble with these knots whatsoever. The third knot that you'll need to know, so we have, the first one is the uni to uni knot. The second one is the tarpon loop. Sometimes you don't want a loop knot. You want the knot tied directly to the terminal tackle. Now this could be a snap swivel, just a regular swivel, a weight, a hook, whatever reason that you want just the knot tied directly to the eye and locked down. One of the easiest knots to use that has plenty of strength, that works again with monofilament and spectra and fluorocarbon, is called the Palomar knot. Basically what you're going to do is you're going to take your line and you're going to double it over. What I mean by double it over, you're going to make like a loop like that. Maybe 4 inches or so. If it's a bigger item, maybe 6 inches. And you're going to then run the doubled loop through the eye like this. Okay? So it's got 2 pieces of line inside the eye. You're going to then make, with both pieces of line, so you're holding both pieces of line like it was one, a basic granny knot. What you're then going to do is not cinch it down all the way, but you got a basic granny knot and this loop hanging off the end. You're going to then run whatever it is, the snap, swivel, the hook, the weight, through the loop and bring all this stuff back over here. Okay? Let me set this in the vise so you see what's going on here. So then, once this loop is back here, you start pulling on everything. Start pulling on everything. Pull a little bit on the tag. Pull a little bit on the main line. That knot's locked down. That again is an extremely strong knot. It's not going anywhere. You can trim the tag real close. I've tested that knot again over and over again. It works really, really well. It works also with the braid. You can run that knot with the braid. So again, take your braid, fold it over, run it through the loop, make your granny knot. Once you've made your granny knot right here, take the loop, you run it through, and then you just start cinching it up. And again, this knot is extremely strong. One of the benefits of this knot is that you actually have two wraps through the eye, so there's not just one piece of line through the eye, it's actually two pieces of line through the eye. I think that helps if there's any kind of minor imperfections in the inside surface of that loop. It helps when you have both pieces of line from it braiding. That knot is, I'm telling you, like super duper strong. Again, it's a classic. I'll put links to all these knots down in the comment section, but that's not going anywhere. All right, guys, in summary, line to leader, we use the uni to uni knot. If we're going lure to leader, we tie a loop knot, which is the tarpon loop. And if we are going either line to terminal tackle or leader to terminal tackle, we tie the Palomar knot. Those three knots right there, learn them, keep them in your memory. They're excellent knots. I've tested them over and over again with excellent success. I've caught tons of fish on these knots. I've never had any trouble with them, and that's after me going through lots of different knots, trying different things. These are the three that I've settled on. They'll cover 99% of all your situations. This is Malik Afram over at Modern Pawn. Check us out at facebook.com/Modern Pawn and Guns. Stay safe.